Broadcasting live from Liberatory CPA Studios, I'm Dr. Brian Alman, sitting in for Rick Amato. And we are very fortunate to have as our guest Dr. Vincent Felitti, the co-principal investigator of the ACE study. And we're getting into the area that I feel is very relevant to all of the viewers, which is how is this impacting us, our parenting, our parents, the way they parented us, and what can we do to change it? What can we do in the future? Because I've known you since before the ACE study began, all the way through it, and it's expanded exponentially, much to your pleasant surprise. I know it's global.
Yeah.
And where is it going, and where would you love to see it go?
I would really like to see it go in everyday medical practice, where it would have huge impacts. I had a Department of Preventive Medicine at Kaiser Permanente here in town, and it had a major division called Health Appraisal, which provided unusually comprehensive medical evaluation to 58,000 adults a year. Ultimately, in its existence, 1.3 million individual patients went through health appraisal. I mean, you know, oh my God. I guess in the late 90s, when it was obvious what we had stumbled into in terms of the ACE study, I decided to integrate the ACE questions into the very extensive and lengthy general medical history questionnaire that everyone had to fill out at home as step one of health appraisal. My colleagues assured me I was crazy. Patients will be furious, you know, having questions like that in there. No one will tell you the truth anyway. Nevertheless, we went ahead and did that, and there were no patient problems whatsoever.
Wow.
Physician problems, absolutely. You know, what the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
That was 50 years ago. You know, if I wanted to be a damn shrink, I'd have been a shrink. I'm a gastroenterologist or
Right.
what have you. So it was really quite interesting. And after several years, a friend of mine brought by a mathematician from University of California here in town. He had a startup data mining company, and he offered as a gift to do a 135,000 patient study to see whether the addition of these questions had any discernible effect. So that was 2.5 years throughput for health appraisal. And incredibly, he found that the addition of those questions triggered a 35% reduction in doctor office visits in the next year, and an 11% reduction in emergency room visits. And hearing that, people say to me, well, you sent everyone to therapy, right? No, we essentially said, well, how do you do that? Spent a lot of time thinking, how did we do that? And slowly we came to see that asking, initially by an inert mechanism, a questionnaire rather than face-to-face initially, and listening and implicitly accepting that person turned out to be a profound form of doing, and many patients told us that. I mean, I remember a note written on lined paper and pencil that an elderly woman sent to me. She wrote, "Thank you for asking. I feared I would die and no one would ever know what had happened." And that was essentially typical of many of the notes and letters I got from patients. So that was a real eye opener. And I mean, the dollar impact of a 35% reduction, you know, in the sample that size is enormous.
Right.
Literally, for a big organization, it's in the multi-billion-dollar range, or for the state, California Medi-Cal budget, et cetera. I was invited to present this information to the Vermont State Legislature a number of years ago, in the early 2000s, I guess it was. And I was surprised with the invitation, went there, presented it, and got a note a couple of weeks later that they had passed legislation designed to support the routine collection of this information in primary care medical visits in the state of Vermont. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, wow, is this going to work? Since then, 20 more states state legislatures have passed such legislation, most recently California. Mm-hmm. In California, it was Assembly Bill, well, I'm not certain of the number. It's either 140 or 340. Anyway, it was quite recent, and Governor Newsom signed the legislation. It involves investing over $100 million on the whole issue of adverse childhood experiences. Wow. So it has also spread around the world and in unexpected places. School systems, judicial settings, legislatures, as I mentioned, police departments. But there's also been resistance. There's been significant medical resistance so far. I think that's diminishing, but nevertheless, that's,
Right. And I understand one of the reasons for doctors to ask their patients about their early childhood experiences is because it is a definite predictor of the medical conditions, not just emotional and psychological. The maybe repression of those manifests as medical conditions that could really save money, get right to the heart of the issue, and that's really the reason you would love to see it in general medical practice in the U.S. and around the world.
Absolutely. For instance, we found a strong relationship between ACE score, the number of categories of adverse childhood experience that one had, and disease states decades later. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes. How does that work? Well, okay, diabetes, that's fairly easy. If you overeat enough to become obese, then type 2 diabetes is a common consequence of obesity. Alcoholism and liver damage. Okay, sit down, have a drink, relax.
But we know, like you said, the dosage, you can never get enough of something if you're trying to cover something up.
Exactly.
I know everybody on the planet needs to know more about the ACE study, including medical practice, but us as parents, and we've talked about parenting programs as a great answer. Everybody that wants to know more about the ACE study, you can Google ACE study, and you will find a lot of articles. You can go on YouTube and look up ACE study. You'll see Dr. Felitti, you'll see a lot of other people talking about what is relevant to all of us about how our early childhood experiences impact us, have for generations and will for generations, but something's changing now. So look at it on Google, look at it on YouTube. I want to thank you very much for being here with us. You've educated people, you've informed people, and you're changing the world, making it a better place. So thank you very much, Vince. Stay tuned for our next segment, live from Liberatory CPA Studios. I'm Dr. Brian Alman, sitting in for Rick Amato.
Politics and Profits with Rick Amato is brought to you by Liberatory Accounting, the IRS problem solvers. To find out how Liberatory Accounting can help you, call 877-6-SOLVER. That's 877-6-SOLVER.